The distress call. The signal came through at 0400 hours, cutting through the silence of deep space like a knife. On the bridge of the colony ship Eternal Horizon, Communications Officer Hana jerked awake at her station, her coffee mug clattering to the floor. The sound that filled her headphones was unlike anything she had heard before. A high-pitched, desperate melody that seemed to pull at something deep in her chest. "Captain Daewon to the bridge," she said into the ship-wide intercom, her hands already working to clean up the signal. "We have an incoming transmission. Unknown origin." Within minutes, the bridge filled with senior officers, all of them rubbing sleep from their eyes. Captain Daewon stood at the center, his uniform hastily pulled on, watching the main screen as Hana worked her magic on the signal. The colony ship had been traveling for 3 months, carrying 5,000 civilians to a new world on the edge of human space. They were not a military vessel. They were farmers, engineers, teachers, and families looking for a fresh start. "Can you translate it?" Daewon asked, leaning forward. Hana shook her head. "Not yet, but the computer is working on it. The signal is being broadcast on multiple frequencies, almost like they want everyone to hear it." She paused, her fingers dancing across her console. "Captain, this is a distress call." "I'm sure of it." Chief Engineer Taemin moved to stand beside her, his experienced eyes scanning the readouts. "It's coming from the Velthiran system," he said quietly. "That's 3 weeks away at maximum speed." 3 weeks, Daewon repeated, his jaw tightening. 3 weeks away from their destination. 3 weeks away from the families aboard who were counting on reaching their new home. The computer chimed, and suddenly the alien sounds transformed into words that everyone could understand. The translation was rough, but the meaning was crystal clear. "This is the Velthiran Council to any who can hear this message. Our world is in danger. An empire called the Kralteth has entered our system with warships. They demand our surrender. We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons. We have no military. We have never known war. Please, if anyone hears this, we need help. We have 7 cycles before they attack. Please help us." The message repeated over and over, that same desperate plea echoing through the bridge. Daewon felt every eye turn to him. Combat Specialist Yuna stepped forward, her expression grim. She was the only person on the ship with actual military experience, having served in the Earth Defense Force before joining the colony mission. "Captain, we need to talk about this," she said. Daewon nodded and called for a meeting in the conference room. Within the hour, his senior staff sat around the table, and the weight of the decision pressed down on all of them like a physical thing. "Show us what we know about the Velthirans," Daewon said. Hana pulled up the files on the main display. The Velthirans were a species of crystalline beings, their bodies made of something that looked like living glass. They were beautiful, ethereal, and according to their public broadcasts, they had existed for over 10,000 years without a single war. Their planet was a paradise, low gravity, perfect weather, abundant resources. They had achieved space travel through mathematics and patience, not through competition and conflict. "They're completely defenseless," Yuna said flatly. "Look at their cities. No walls, no bunkers, no defensive positions. They don't even have the concept of personal combat." "What about the Kralteth?" Daewon asked. Taemin brought up another file. "We don't know much. They're an empire that's been expanding for the last 50 years. They've conquered at least 20 systems that we know of. They're militaristic, organized, and they don't negotiate. They give you a choice, join them or die." The room fell silent. First Officer Hana spoke up, her voice careful. "Captain, we're a colony ship. We have 4 small defense fighters and some basic weapons for asteroid clearing. We're not a warship. We can't fight an empire." "She's right," Taemin added. "Our shields are designed for micrometeorites, not plasma cannons. One hit from a Kralteth destroyer and we're dead in space." Yuna crossed her arms. "So we do nothing? We let them die?" "I'm not saying that," Hana said quickly. "I'm saying we need to be realistic. We have 5,000 civilians on this ship. Families, children. We have a responsibility to them." "And what about our responsibility to the Velthirans?" Yuna shot back. "They sent out a distress call. Someone has to answer." Daewon held up his hand, stopping the argument before it could escalate. "Everyone, calm down. We're not making this decision in anger." He looked at each of them in turn. Hana sent a message back to Earth Command. "Let them know what we've heard. Taemin, I want you to calculate how long it would take us to reach the Velthiran system. Yuna, assess our weapons and defenses. Tell me what we have to work with. And what are you going to do, Captain? Hana asked. Daewon stood walking to the window that looked out at the endless stars. I'm going to think. We have time before we need to decide. Let's use it wisely. Over the next 12 hours, the eternal horizon buzzed with activity. Taemin's team ran every calculation twice, confirming that at maximum speed they could reach the Velthiran system in 18 days. The civilians on board learned about the distress call. News traveled fast in the close quarters of a colony ship, and opinions divided sharply. Some argued they should help. Others said they had no right to risk the lives of thousands for aliens they had never met. Parents worried about their children. Young people wanted to do something heroic. Engineers debated whether their ship could even survive a combat situation. Daewon listened to all of it. He walked through the ship's corridors, hearing the arguments, seeing the fear and the hope in equal measure. He visited the school section where children played, unaware of the weight of the decision being made. He stood in engineering, watching Taemin and his team work miracles with equipment that was never meant for war. Finally, he returned to the bridge and called his senior staff together again. They all looked exhausted, but they came without complaint. I've made my decision, Daewon said. We're going to answer the distress call. The room erupted in questions, but he held up his hand. I know the risks. I know we're not soldiers, but I also know that the Velthirans called for help, and if we don't answer, they'll die. All of them. An entire civilization wiped out because no one cared enough to try. Captain, Hana started. I'm not finished, Daewon said firmly. I'm not ordering anyone to fight. When we get there, anyone who wants to stay on the ship and protect our civilians can do so. But we're going. And Hana, I want you to send out a message to every human ship, station, and colony in range. Tell them what's happening. Tell them where we're going. Ask if anyone else is willing to answer the call. Yuna smiled grimly. You think others will come? I don't know, Daewon admitted. But I have to hope. Because if we're the only ones who care, then maybe we deserve to be alone in this galaxy. The message went out within the hour, broadcast across human space. The eternal horizon changed course, its engines burning hot as it raced toward a system 3 weeks away, toward a people who needed help, toward an uncertain fate. Captain Daewon stood on the bridge and watched the stars shift as they entered faster than light travel. He didn't know if they would survive. He didn't know if anyone would join them. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humanity had been given a choice, and they had chosen to answer. The distress call had been heard, and now the Deathworlders were coming. The Deathworlder reputation. The response came faster than anyone expected. 6 hours after broadcasting their message, the Eternal Horizon received its first reply. It was Admiral Jiwoo of the Earth Defense Fleet, and her message was short and direct. Captain Daewon, this is Admiral Jiwoo. I'm bringing Battle Group 7, 15 warships. We'll meet you at the rally point, 2 days from the Velthiran system. Earth Command has approved this mission. We're coming with you. Captain Daewon stood on the bridge, staring at the message in disbelief. 15 warships. The Earth Defense Fleet was sending actual military ships. He had hoped for maybe 1 or 2 vessels, supply ships perhaps, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. Then another message came through. Commander Sung from the Mars Colonial Guard was diverting 3 patrol cruisers. An hour later, a mining consortium from the Belt announced they were sending 5 armed freighters. Then came messages from Europa Station, from the Titan colonies, from independent traders who had heard the call and decided to answer it. First Officer Hana kept track of all the responses, her expression shifting from shock to something like awe. Captain, we have 47 ships confirmed so far, and more messages are still coming in. Why? Taemin asked, looking at the growing list. Why are so many people willing to risk their lives for aliens we've never even met? Science Officer Bora, who had been quiet until now, spoke up from her station. Because that's what humans do, she said simply. We help. Daewon turned to look at her. Bora was young, barely 30, with a brilliant mind that had earned her a place on the colony ship despite her age. She rarely spoke in meetings, preferring to let her work speak for itself. Explain, Daewon said. Bora pulled up a file on the main screen. I've been researching the Velthirans and the Kralteth. I've also been looking at Earth's history and comparing it to other species. Captain, do you know what a death world is? I've heard the term, Yuna said. It's what some alien species call planets that are unusually dangerous. Exactly, Bora said. She pulled up an image of Earth. that beautiful blue and green marble floating in space. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. That's almost the highest rating possible. To understand what that means, let me show you something. She brought up a comparison chart. On one side was the Beltheran homeworld. Gravity, 0.6 standard. Weather stable and mild. Natural disasters, none on record. Predators, 0. Diseases, minimal. Average lifespan, 200 years. On the other side was Earth. Gravity, 1.0 standard. Weather, extreme variations, hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards. Natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, floods. Predators, thousands of species. Diseases, millions of variations. Average human lifespan before modern medicine, 35 years. The Veltherans evolved on a paradise, Bora said quietly. They never had to fight for survival. They never had to develop weapons or tactics or even the concept of violence. To them, the idea of hurting another living thing is as alien as breathing underwater is to us. She pulled up another comparison, this time with the Kralteth homeworld. The Kralteth come from a tougher world than the Veltherans. Gravity, 0.9 standard. Some competition for resources. A warrior culture developed naturally. But even their world is gentle compared to Earth. What makes Earth so different? Hana asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Everything, Bora said. Earth tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, plagues, predators that hunted us, plants that poisoned us, weather that could freeze or burn us. We developed persistence hunting, the ability to chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We became omnivores, able to eat almost anything. We developed pack bonding so strong that humans will die for complete strangers. She pulled up medical data. Look at human physiology compared to other species. We have redundant organs. If one kidney fails, we have another. If we lose blood, our bodies make more. We can heal from injuries that would kill most aliens. We can survive on pure adrenaline during a crisis, pushing our bodies beyond their normal limits. Taemin whistled low. No wonder we scare other species. It's not just that, Bora continued. Humans have something else. We have what xenobiologists call pack bonding gone wrong. We bond with anything. Other humans, obviously, but also animals, plants, robots, even inanimate objects. We form emotional attachments to things that can't possibly reciprocate. What does that have to do with answering a distress call? Daewon asked. Bora smiled sadly. Everything, Captain. The Veltherans called for help. They're in danger. To a human, that triggers the same instinct that made us protect our tribes, our families, our pack. It doesn't matter that they're aliens. It doesn't matter that we've never met them. They need help, so we're compelled to give it. That's what makes us Deathworlders. Not just our ability to survive, but our inability to ignore suffering. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this. Yuna broke the quiet. You said we scared other species. Has that happened before? Bora nodded. 3 years ago, human explorers encountered the Kralteth near the Proxima colonies. The Kralteth tried to intimidate them, the way they do with other species. They showed up with warships, made demands, expected humans to back down. What happened? Hana asked. The humans fought back, Bora said simply. The Kralteth had never encountered a species that refused to submit. They expected humans to be weak because our ships were smaller and less advanced. They didn't account for human tactics, human aggression, or human stubbornness. She pulled up a battle report. 3 Kralteth ships against 5 human vessels. The Kralteth ships were larger, better armed with superior shields. By all logic, they should have won. But humans don't fight like other species. We're willing to take damage to deal damage. We're willing to sacrifice ourselves for a tactical advantage. We use unconventional tactics that no sane military would approve. Did we win? Taemin asked. We destroyed 2 of their ships and crippled the 3rd, Bora said. Then we boarded the crippled vessel and took prisoners. The Kralteth couldn't understand it. Why would humans risk boarding actions when they could just destroy the ship from a distance? Why would they take prisoners when killing everyone would be safer? Because that's not who we are, Daewon said quietly. He understood now. Understood why so many ships were answering the call. Understood why Admiral Jiwoo was bringing a battle group. We fight when we have to, but we're not monsters. Exactly, Bora said. After Proxima, the Kralteth started calling humans the impossible ones. They couldn't predict us. Couldn't understand us. We became something they feared. Not because we were the strongest, but because we were unpredictable and refused to give up. A new message came through. This time a priority signal from Admiral Jiwoo. Hana put it on the main screen. The Admiral looked tired but determined. Captain Daewon, I need to brief you on what you're getting into. Our intelligence suggests the Kralteth force at Velthiren consists of 80 ships. They've been there for 4 days already, which means we have less time than we thought. They're not just invading. They're making an example. If the Velthirans don't surrender, the Kralteth will destroy their entire civilization. Daewon felt his stomach drop. 80 ships. Against 47 human vessels, many of them civilian craft with jury-rigged weapons. Admiral, what are our chances? He asked. Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. Honestly, not good. The Kralteth have better technology, more firepower, and battle experience. On paper, we should lose. She smiled grimly. But humans don't fight on paper. We fight with everything we have. And we fight for each other. What's the plan? Yuna asked. We're going to do what humans do best, Jiwoo said. We're going to be unpredictable, aggressive, and too stubborn to know when we're beaten. We'll use tactics the Kralteth can't anticipate. We'll take risks they'd never consider. And most importantly, we're going to show them what happens when you threaten someone under human protection. She paused, her expression softening. Captain Daewon, I want you to know something. Every ship that answered this call did so voluntarily. No one was ordered. No one was forced. They came because a distress call went out, and humans don't ignore those. We're not coming to conquer or claim territory. We're coming to help. I understand, Admiral, Daewon said. Good. We'll rendezvous in 36 hours. Until then, prepare your ship and your people. What we're about to do, it's going to be difficult. Some of us won't make it home, but we're going anyway because that's what it means to be human. The transmission ended. Daewon looked around his bridge at his crew, seeing his own determination reflected in their faces. You heard the Admiral, he said. We have 36 hours. Taemin, I want every system checked and double-checked. Yuna, start training anyone who's willing to fight. Hana, send a message to all the civilians. Let them know what's happening. Let them choose if they want to stay, or if they want to evacuate to one of the military ships. Captain, Bora said quietly. For what it's worth, I think we're doing the right thing. Daewon smiled. So do I, Bora, so do I. The eternal horizon continued toward the rally point, toward a battle that logic said they couldn't win, toward a people they had never met, but were willing to die for. Behind them across human space, 46 other ships did the same. The Deathworlders were coming. And the galaxy was about to learn what that reconvergence. The rally point was an empty patch of space 2 days from the Velthiren system, far enough from any gravity wells to allow ships to gather safely. The eternal horizon arrived first, its engines cooling as Captain Daewon watched the scanners for incoming vessels. He didn't have to wait long. They came in groups scattered across several hours. First came Admiral Jiwoo's battle group, 15 sleek warships that looked like they meant business, their hulls painted with the Earth Defense Force insignia. Then came the Mars Colonial Guard, their ships older but well-maintained, showing the scars of previous engagements. The mining freighters arrived next, their massive bulk hiding the weapons that had been hastily welded to their exteriors. By the time everyone had gathered, there were 47 ships floating in formation. Some were military vessels with experienced crews. Others were civilian ships crewed by volunteers who had never seen combat. Together, they represented something that had never existed before. A human fleet assembled not for conquest or defense of their own territory, but to help strangers. Admiral Jiwoo's flagship, the Soul's Pride, positioned itself at the center of the formation. A general communication channel opened and her face appeared on every ship's main screen. This is Admiral Jiwoo. I'm taking command of this fleet. I know some of you are military, some are civilians, and some of you are somewhere in between. That doesn't matter now. What matters is why we're here. A peaceful civilization called for help, we answered. That makes us responsible for what happens next. She paused, letting her words sink in. I'm going to be honest with you. Intelligence says there are 80 Kralteth ships in the Velthiren system. Their vessels are larger than ours, better armed, and their crews have more combat experience. On paper, this is a fight we can't win. Daewon saw the concern on his crew's faces, but Jiwoo wasn't finished. But we're not fighting on paper. We're humans, and humans have a habit of winning fights we're supposed to lose. Let me tell you what we have that the Kralteth don't. She pulled up a tactical display. First, speed. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable. We can outrun them, Dance around them and hit them from angles they can't anticipate. Second, we can take more damage. Human ships are built to survive in harsh conditions. We can take hits that would cripple other vessels. Lieutenant Hyun from the Intelligence Division appeared next to Jiwoo on the screen. He was young but sharp with eyes that missed nothing. We've analyzed every recorded Kralteth battle we could find. They fight in standard formation, using overwhelming firepower to break their enemies. They're disciplined, organized, and predictable. Predictable is good for us, Tactical Officer Sumin added, joining them on screen. She was older than Hyun, a veteran of the Proxima incident that Bor had mentioned. Because humans are anything but predictable. We fight dirty. We use tactics that military academies would call insane, and we never ever give up, even when we should. Sumin brought up a battle plan. Here's what we're going to do. The Kralteth will expect us to engage them in traditional formation warfare. We're not going to do that. Instead, we'll split into 3 groups. The first group, led by the Soul's Pride, will draw their attention with a frontal assault. The second group, mostly civilian vessels and smaller craft, will flank them from above and below. The third group will stay in reserve, ready to exploit any weakness. Daewon studied the plan. It was risky, requiring precise timing and coordination between ships that had never worked together before. But he could see the logic. The Kralteth would focus on the obvious threat, leaving themselves vulnerable to attacks from unexpected angles. What about the Velthirans? Someone asked over the channel. Can they help? Hyun shook his head. The Velthirans have no military. They're evacuating their population to underground shelters, but that's all they can do. If we fail, they die. It's that simple. Then we won't fail, Jiwoo said firmly. I want all ship captains to download the tactical package. Study it, memorize it. We go in 12 hours. Use that time to prepare yourselves and your crews. The channel closed and Daewon turned to his own crew. You heard the Admiral. Taemin, I want our engines ready to push past their safety limits. If we need extra speed, I need to know we can get it. Yuna, coordinate with the other civilian ships. We're going to be in the second wave, which means we'll be taking risks the military vessels can't. Hana looked worried. Captain, we have civilians on board. Families, children. Should we evacuate them to one of the military vessels? Daewon had thought about this question for 2 days straight. We offered that option when we changed course. Everyone on this ship chose to stay. They believe in what we're doing. We need to honor that choice. Over the next 12 hours, the fleet prepared. Pilots ran simulations. Engineers checked every system. Weapons were calibrated. The civilian volunteers received crash courses in damage control and emergency procedures from Yuna and her small security team. In the mess hall of the Eternal Horizon, Daewon found Taemin eating a quiet meal. The engineer looked exhausted but determined. How are the engines? Daewon asked, sitting down across from him. They'll hold, Taemin said. I've rerouted power from non-essential systems. We can push to 115% capacity for short bursts. More than that, and we risk a core breach. Will it be enough? Taemin shrugged. Against Kralteth destroyers? Maybe. Against their dreadnoughts? I don't know. But we'll find out soon enough. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Taemin spoke again, his voice quiet. Captain, do you think we're going to survive this? Daewon considered lying, giving false reassurance. But Taemin deserved the truth. I don't know. Some of us will. Maybe all of us will. Maybe none of us will. But I know we're doing the right thing. That's enough for me, Taemin said. Meanwhile, on the Kralteth flagship Endless Glory, War Master Thelkarn reviewed intelligence reports about the approaching human fleet. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns, his body covered in the ritual scars that marked his victories. He had never lost a battle. His second-in-command, a younger warrior named Krell, seemed nervous. War Master, the humans are approaching. 47 ships. 47, Thelkarn repeated, amused. Against our 80. They're either brave or stupid. The reports from Proxima suggest they're dangerous, Krell said carefully. They fight unpredictably. Thelkarn waved a dismissive hand. Proxima was a minor skirmish against unprepared scouts. This is different. We have our full battle fleet. We have superior technology. We have the advantage in every measurable way. He leaned back in his command chair. Let them come. We'll destroy their fleet and then finish what we came here to do. The Velthirans will surrender or be eliminated. The humans will learn not to interfere in Kralteth affairs. What if they don't surrender? Krell asked. Then they'll die, Thelkarn said simply. Send a message to all ships. Battle formation Delta 7. When the humans arrive, we'll meet them with overwhelming force. This will be over quickly. Back at the rally point, the 12 hours passed too quickly. Admiral Jiwoo opened one final communication channel to address the fleet. This is it, she said. In 10 minutes, we jump to the Velthiran system. When we arrive, we'll be in combat almost immediately. Remember your training. Remember your assignments. And remember why we're here. She paused, and for a moment, the tough military commander showed a hint of emotion. I want to say something to all of you. What you're doing today, it's extraordinary. You're risking everything for people you've never met. That's not just brave. It's noble. It's the best of what humanity can be. Some of you won't make it home, she continued, her voice steady. That's the reality of combat. But know this, if you fall today, you'll fall as heroes, and the Velthirans will remember. The galaxy will remember, and most importantly, humanity will remember. She straightened in her chair. All ships prepare for jump. We go in 5 minutes. May fortune favor the bold. On the eternal horizon, Daewon walked through his ship one last time. He saw families huddled together, children being comforted by parents who tried to hide their own fear. He saw engineers double-checking their work, making sure every system was perfect. He saw volunteers manning weapon stations, their hands shaking but their expressions determined. He returned to the bridge and took his seat. Hana was at her station, Taemin at his, Yuna standing ready near the tactical display. They all looked at him, waiting for the final order. All hands, this is the captain, Daewon said over the ship-wide intercom. We're about to jump to the Velthiran system. When we arrive, we'll be going into battle. I won't lie to you, this is going to be dangerous. But we're not alone. We have 46 other ships with us, all of them crewed by humans who believe the same thing we do. That when someone calls for help, we answer. He took a deep breath. I'm proud of every person on this ship. Proud of your courage. Proud of your compassion. Proud to serve with you. Now let's go save some lives. Admiral Jiwoo's voice came over the fleet channel. All ships jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, a mark. The eternal horizon jumped to faster than light speed, along with 46 other ships. They left empty space behind and raced toward their destiny, toward a battle that would define humanity's place in the galaxy, toward a first contact with fire. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Velthiran system, and chaos erupted immediately. Alarms blared across every ship as sensors registered the Kralteth battle fleet, exactly where intelligence said they would be, in orbit around the Velthiran homeworld. Weapons pointed at the planet below like a threat carved in steel and plasma. On the bridge of the eternal horizon, Captain Daewon gripped his armrests as the ship shuddered from the sudden deceleration. Status report. 82 Kralteth vessels confirmed, Hana called out, her fingers flying across her console. Wait, 82? Intelligence said 80. They have reinforcements. Does it matter? Yuna asked grimly, already pulling up weapon systems. We came to fight. 2 more ships won't change that. Admiral Jiwoo's voice came through on the fleet channel. All ships maintain formation. 2nd and 3rd waves hold position until my signal. 1st wave with me. The human fleet split exactly as planned. 15 warships, led by the Soul's Pride, accelerated toward the Kralteth formation at full speed. The civilian vessels and smaller craft, including the Eternal Horizon, moved into flanking positions above and below the plane of battle. The reserve force held back, ready to exploit any opening. On the Kralteth flagship, War Master Thelkarn watched the human approach with something close to amusement. They're charging straight at us, foolish. Should we open fire? Krell asked. Not yet. Let them come closer. I want them to see our full strength before they die. Thelkarn studied the formation on his tactical display. Actually, something is wrong. They're not all attacking. Some of them are moving to flank. Should we adjust our position? Krell asked, concerned now. No, Thelkarn decided. We have superior firepower. Their flanking maneuver won't matter when we destroy their main force. All ships, prepare to fire. Target the lead vessels. The distance closed. 500,000 kilometers. 400,000. 300,000. The Kralteth fleet's weapons powered up, their targeting systems locking onto the approaching human warships. Fire, Thelkarn commanded. Space lit up with plasma fire. Brilliant streaks of superheated energy lanced across the void, converging on the human vanguard. The Kralteth expected to see ships torn apart, hulls breached, humans dying by the thousands. Instead, the human ships jinked and weaved, their smaller size and superior maneuverability letting them dodge fire that should have been impossible to avoid. Some hits landed. The Soul's Pride took a direct hit to its forward shields, and a cruiser called the Tokyo Dawn lost part of its port side to a plasma barrage. But they kept coming, kept accelerating, returning fire with their own weapons. Impossible, Thelkarn breathed. Their ship should be crippled. They're built tougher than we thought, Krell said, watching in growing alarm as the human ships absorbed damage that would have destroyed any other vessel, and kept fighting. Then the human tactics became clear. The warships weren't trying to win a slugging match. They were drawing fire, forcing the Kralteth to focus all attention on the frontal assault. And while the Kralteth fleet concentrated on the obvious threat, the second wave struck. Enemy ships above and below us, a Kralteth sensor operator shouted. Multiple contacts. The civilian vessels and smaller craft dove into the battle from unexpected angles. They weren't as heavily armed as the warships, but they were fast and they were fearless. Mining freighters, massive bulk carriers that normally hauled ore, rammed into Kralteth destroyers. Their reinforced hulls designed to withstand asteroid impacts, treating enemy ships like they were made of paper. On the eternal horizon, Daiwan felt his ship shake as they opened fire with their improvised weapons. Target that cruiser. All weapons. Captain, we're too close, Hana shouted. If their ship explodes, we'll be caught in the blast. Then make sure we hit them somewhere that won't explode, Daiwan said, his jaw set. Taemin, give me everything the engines have. The eternal horizon swooped past a Kralteth cruiser, weapons blazing. Their shots weren't powerful enough to penetrate the enemy shields, but they didn't need to be. They were a distraction, forcing the cruiser to split its attention between multiple threats. And while the cruiser tried to target the colony ship, a Mars Colonial Guard patrol vessel hit it from behind, punching through weakened shields and crippling its engines. Fighter pilot June, flying one of the Eternal Horizon's small defense craft, found himself in the middle of a debris field when a Kralteth destroyer exploded. Instead of pulling back to safety, he dove deeper into the wreckage, using chunks of destroyed ship as cover while he lined up shots on a Kralteth command vessel. June, what are you doing? His wing commander shouted over the comm. Get out of there! Negative, June replied, his voice calm despite the chaos. I have a shot. His targeting computer locked on. He fired every missile he had, then his energy weapons, pouring everything into a single concentrated burst. The Kralteth command ship's shields flickered and died. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. It began to list. Systems failing, no longer a threat. Scratch one command ship, June said, pulling his fighter into a hard turn that would have killed most alien pilots. Human bodies, evolved in one full gravity, could withstand forces that would crush other species. Who's next? The battle raged across millions of kilometers of space. Ships burned. People died. The void filled with debris and plasma, and the silent screams of those who wouldn't go home. On the Soul's Pride, Admiral Jiwoo coordinated the chaos with practiced efficiency. Third wave now! Hit them while they're disorganized. The reserve force jumped forward, fresh ships with full weapons and shields slamming into the Kralteth formation that was now trying to fight on 3 different fronts at once. Aboard the Eternal Horizon, alarms shrieked as a Kralteth plasma barrage found its mark. The ship shook violently, throwing crew members to the floor. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The lights flickered. Hull breach on Deck 7, Hana reported. We're venting atmosphere. Damage control teams, move. Yuna ordered, already running for the door. She grabbed a pressure suit on the way, pulling it on as she ran through corridors that were filling with smoke and emergency lighting. She reached Deck 7 to find the breach, a gaping hole where the hull had been melted through by enemy fire. 4 crew members were already there, struggling to deploy an emergency seal while air rushed past them into the void. The temperature was dropping rapidly, frost forming on every surface. Get that seal in place, Yuna shouted over the howling wind of escaping atmosphere. She grabbed one end of the seal, bracing herself against a support beam. Her muscles screamed with the effort. Even in a pressure suit, the cold was brutal, and the force of the air trying to drag her into space was incredible. But she held on. They all held on, because that's what humans did. They held on when holding on should have been impossible. The seal deployed, clicking into place. The howling stopped. The breach was contained. Yuna and her team collapsed against the walls, gasping for breath but alive. Deck 7 secured, she reported over her comm, her voice hoarse. Minor casualties, no fatalities. Back on the bridge, Taemin was performing miracles in engineering. Rerouting power from non-essential systems, he muttered to himself, his hands dancing across his console. Life support at 60%, weapons at 80%, shields at 45%, he made a decision. Redirecting all power to forward shields. If we're going to die, we're going to die moving forward. The Kralteth were learning, adapting to human tactics. But they were also panicking. They had never fought an enemy like this. An enemy that took catastrophic damage and kept fighting. That used tactics no sane military would approve. That seemed to view their own lives as acceptable losses if it meant completing the mission. War Master. Thelkarn watched his fleet being torn apart by an enemy that should have been defeated in the first exchange of fire. This is impossible, he said again, but this time it wasn't amusement in his voice. It was fear. War Master, we've lost 18 ships, Krell reported, his voice shaking. 23 more are damaged. The humans. They won't stop. Even ships that should be destroyed are still fighting. On the colony ship New Beijing, a massive civilian transport that had been converted into an improvised carrier, Captain Lee watched as her ship took a direct hit that killed the entire bridge crew, everyone except her. She was trapped under debris, both legs broken, but she could still reach her console. With shaking hands, she rerouted all remaining power to weapons and locked onto the nearest Kralteth vessel. For everyone we've lost, she whispered, and fired. The New Beijing exploded in a fireball that took out a Kralteth battlecruiser. Captain Lee died as a hero, and her sacrifice was just one of dozens happening across the battlefield. The fighting continued for 18 hours. 18 hours of non-stop combat, of ships burning, of people dying, of humans refusing to quit even when quitting would have been merciful. The Kralteth fought with discipline and training. The humans fought with desperation and rage and an absolute refusal to let the Velthirans die. When it finally ended, 30 Kralteth ships were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. The survivors broke formation and fled, jumping to faster-than-light speed, their invasion shattered. The human fleet had paid a terrible price. 12 ships were gone, reduced to debris, for the aftermath and the choice. The silence after the battle was somehow worse than the fighting. Captain Daewon stood on the bridge of the eternal horizon, looking at the damage report scrolling across his screens, and felt the weight of what they had done settle on his shoulders like a physical thing. 12 ships lost, 437 dead. Names and faces he would never forget. People who had answered a distress call and paid with their lives. The victory tasted like ashes, Captain, Hana said softly, breaking the quiet. We're receiving a transmission from the Velthiran homeworld. Daewon nodded, straightening in his chair despite his exhaustion. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a being unlike anything Daewon had seen before. The Velthiran looked like it was made of living crystal, its body translucent and glowing with soft internal light. When it spoke, the translation software rendered its melodic tones into words everyone could understand. I am Council Prime Velthus. On behalf of all Velthirans, I thank you. You came when we called. You fought for us. You died for us. We do not have words adequate to express our gratitude. We did what anyone should do, Daewon said, his voice rough with emotion. You called for help. We answered. But why? Velthus asked, and there was genuine confusion in its voice. We are strangers to you. Your people died protecting ours. This makes no sense to us. Why would you sacrifice yourselves for beings you have never met? Daewon looked at his crew, seeing the same exhaustion and grief on their faces that he felt in his heart. Because it was the right thing to do, he said finally. Because we couldn't stand by and watch innocents die, because that's what humans do. The days that followed were a blur of repair work, medical treatment and funerals. The human fleet remained in orbit around the Velthiran homeworld, while damaged ships were patched up enough to make the journey home. The Velthirans, despite their confusion about violence and warfare, did everything they could to help, offering their medical technology and resources. 5 days after the battle, a diplomatic ship arrived from Earth carrying Ambassador Yun. She was a veteran negotiator who had helped establish humanity's first contact protocols with several alien species. She came with authority from the Earth government to establish formal relations with the Velthirans. Day-Wan met her in the Eternal Horizons docking bay. She was a small woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes that seemed to see through to the core of things. "Captain Day-Wan," she said, extending her hand. "You've started something remarkable here." "I just answered a distress call," Day-Wan replied, shaking her hand. "No," Yoon said firmly. "You did much more than that. You proved that humanity can be trusted, that we'll keep our word even when it costs us dearly. Do you understand how rare that is in the galaxy?" She asked to meet with the Velthiran Council, and Day-Wan accompanied her to the planet's surface. It was the first time he had seen the Velthiran homeworld up close, and it took his breath away. The planet was beautiful beyond words. The sky was a soft purple, the gravity so light that he felt like he could float. Buildings made of the same crystalline material as the Velthirans themselves rose in graceful spirals, catching the light of their twin suns and scattering it in rainbow patterns. There were no weapons, no defenses, no military installations, just beauty and peace and a civilization that had never known war. The council met them in a vast chamber that seemed to be carved from a single massive crystal. 7 Velthirans sat in a circle, their bodies glowing gently in the filtered light. Velthus welcomed them with formal courtesy. "Ambassador Yoon, Captain Day-Wan, we are honored by your presence. We have much to discuss." What followed was unlike any negotiation Day-Wan had witnessed. Ambassador Eun didn't start with trade agreements or territorial boundaries. She started with a story. "I'm going to tell you about Earth," she said. "Not the sanitized version we usually share with new species, but the truth. Because if we're going to be allies, you need to understand what humans are." She described Earth's history, thousands of years of warfare, countless wars and conflicts, entire civilizations rising and falling. She talked about plagues that killed millions, natural disasters that reshaped continents, technological disasters that nearly destroyed the planet. "We almost destroyed ourselves a dozen times," she said quietly. "Nuclear weapons, engineered viruses, environmental collapse. We came so close to extinction that we could see the edge of the abyss. But we didn't fall. We pulled back. We learned. We changed." "Why tell us this?" Velthus asked. "Are you trying to frighten us?" "No," Yoon said. "I'm trying to explain who we are. Humans are capable of terrible violence. We've done horrible things to each other and to our world, but we're also capable of extraordinary compassion and sacrifice. The same species that created weapons of mass destruction also created art and music and poetry. The same people who fought wars also built hospitals and schools." She paused, making sure she had their full attention. "The humans who came to save you weren't soldiers following orders. They were volunteers. They came knowing they might die, knowing they had families and homes to protect, but they came anyway. Because when you called for help, it triggered something deep in the human psyche. We can't ignore suffering. We can't stand by while innocents are killed, even when it would be safer, easier, more logical to look away. We can't." The council was silent for a long moment. Then Velthus spoke again. "But the Kraltith will return. The force that attacked us was only a small part of their empire. When they come back, they will bring more ships, more weapons. How can we survive?" "That's why I'm here," Yoon said. "We need to discuss your future." She laid out the situation with brutal honesty. Intelligence suggested the Kralteth Empire controlled over 40 systems and had hundreds of warships. The defeat here would anger them, not deter them. They would return with overwhelming force. "Earth's defense fleet is strong," Yoon continued, "but it's spread across dozens of colonies. We can't maintain a large permanent presence here without leaving our own worlds vulnerable. We need to make a decision together about how to protect you." "What are our options?" another council member asked. "Two main choices," Yoon said. "First option, we help you build a military. We train your people to fight, give you weapons, teach you tactics. You become a warrior race like the Kralteth, capable of defending yourselves." The Velthirans' crystalline bodies seemed to dim at this suggestion. "That would destroy who we are," Velthus said softly. "Our entire civilization is built on peace. We have never harmed another living being. To learn violence, it would change us fundamentally." "I know," Yoon said. "That's why there's a second option. Humanity establishes a permanent defensive presence here. We build a military station, keep ships in orbit, train and equip a defense force. You remain as you are and we act as your shield." "But what does humanity gain from this?" Velthus asked. "You would spend resources, risk lives, all to protect us." "Why?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Anne said simply. And because we believe that a peaceful civilization like yours deserves to exist. The galaxy needs more peace, not less. Meanwhile, aboard the Soul's Pride, Admiral Jiwoo was dealing with a different set of problems. Scout Jeho had brought troubling intelligence from the Kralteth border. The Empire is mobilizing, Jeho reported, displaying star charts on the tactical screen. We're detecting massive fleet movements. They're pulling ships from garrison duty, recalling patrol groups. We estimate they could have 200 warships ready within 3 months. Admiral Jiwoo studied the charts, her expression grim. 200 ships. We can't match that. Even if we brought every human warship from every colony, we'd be outnumbered 2 to 1. Her chief strategist, Juan, leaned forward. Admiral, we need to consider the possibility that defending the Velthirans long-term isn't feasible. The cost in lives and resources. It could cripple humanity's ability to defend our own worlds. So we abandon them? Jiwoo asked sharply. After everything we've done, after everyone who died here, we just leave? I'm not saying that, Juan said carefully. I'm saying we need to be realistic about what we can accomplish. If the Kralteth come with their full strength, we'll lose. And if we lose here, they might decide to attack human space next. The debate continued for hours, with senior officers arguing both sides. Some believed humanity had a moral obligation to protect the Velthirans. Others argued that humanity's first responsibility was to its own people. Finally, Captain Daewon was called to join the meeting. He listened to both sides, then spoke his mind. I understand the concerns about resources and military capacity, he said, but I keep thinking about that distress call. The Velthirans sent it out into the void, hoping someone would care enough to help. We answered. We told them by our actions that humanity keeps its promises. If we leave now, what does that say about us? It says we're pragmatic, Juan argued. That we understand our limitations. No, Daewon said firmly. It says we only help when it's convenient. That our word means nothing when the cost gets too high. I didn't come here to start something we wouldn't finish. Admiral Jiwoo made her decision. We stay. We establish Forward Base Terra as a permanent installation. We recruit volunteers for long-term deployment. And we woe.